Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Weaver. Welcome to the Audio Analyst. Pardon me. My colleague and good friend, Maurice Jefferies, a gifted listener and writer who currently contributes to Positive Feedback and Enjoy the Music, joins me once again in a discussion in my listening room. This time, we talk about listening, identifying and understanding our own listening biases, and developing and making the most of our own sensibilities. And he even has a few comments to share on the state of my reference system. So, with no further setup, here is that conversation. All right, everybody. Back with us today, my good friend, Maurice Jeffries. Skilled writer, good friend. We've known each other for what, about 8 years now?
8 years,
something like that?
yeah.
So, now, today, we're going to readdress this topic I spoke with my buddy Charlie Lean, which are listening biases. And then we're going to talk about his experience listening to my system like Charlie did. Because one of the points we're trying to make with this listening experience thing is, even though you have disparate likes or in musical tastes, doesn't mean you can't be on the same page. Okay, and it's one of the reasons that we're such good friends. I think we hear kind of the same sensibilities.
Yes, to a surprising degree.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. I mean, we talked about it yesterday when we were listening to some of these records that we were listening to. I prefer classic rock. Classic rock, some blues, and classical. I like some jazz. We overlap in some areas. Weather Report, Chick Corea, Miles Davis. I told you the story when I saw Miles that time. But
Sex Pistols Kill the Lounge Lizards.
But I freely admit that I don't completely get
Bill
Evans or Coltrane.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad music. It just doesn't flip that switch for me. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't. Now it'd be different if I said, Evans sucks. Well, I know he doesn't suck. There's no reason to say that.
It just
but
doesn't speak.
It
to
doesn't
you.
speak to
Yes.
me in a way. It doesn't flip that switch. So.
Which is, don't assume that your music tastes should have universal appeal. That
Right.
kind of hubris has no role.
No merit at all.
Absolutely.
No. And it's interesting. I've had a couple people come by and bring records, and they look at me kind of sheepishly. Can you put this on? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just because I don't like the
Yeah.
music doesn't mean that it doesn't speak.
Just
to
because
you.
it doesn't appeal to me, it's what you're used to listening to. So that's what you should. And by the same token, when we're going shopping to buy gear, and you're going to take sample music, don't let them just play Beethoven sonatas for you if that's not what you listen to. Take music on a file or on a CD or I mean, you can stream now pretty much, but at shows, people often have trouble streaming because the networking in hotels is not that great.
You don't have to listen to Sarah Una Noche or as much as I love the album and the music, Steely Dan's Asia, if it's not
what you like.
Absolutely.
Right. And we did play the Cisco Asia yesterday. It's pretty good. And by the way, I've pre-ordered the Chad's UHQR of Asia.
And he makes a really good Hendrix Martini.
I do, don't I?
Oranges.
I
So
do.
he follows instructions well.
Yeah, I do. It's pretty good. We had a couple. We'll have some more today, buddy.
It's Sunday. Are you kidding? I'm
Yeah,
in the center.
yeah. So now, the whole point we're trying to make is that I don't want anyone to ever be apologetic for the kind of music they listen to. If it doesn't speak to other people, so what? It's what's important to you, especially if you're buying gear to hear it in your home. Now,
let me give you an example.
Yeah.
As listeners, I have a pair of Von Schweikert speakers at home, the Endeavor SCs, and I recently got the critical mass footers that mount to the plinths of the
the
speakers.
loudspeaker versions.
The loudspeaker versions.
Yeah.
And within a couple days, it became clear that I was hearing certain things that simply weren't reproduced without the footers. Bass texture and precision and speed and articulation went off the charts, as did imaging specificity within the soundstage. And I called Greg and I said, am I hearing things? Because these are the things I'm hearing. And your response to me during that phone call was, I had that same experience when I used the footers,
The equipment
under
footers.
the equipment footers.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, that decoupling magic that critical mass brings to the equation is producing across the board similar benefits. The thing to take away from this is that on sonic grounds, Greg and I tend to hear things very similarly. If the bass sounds bloated, regardless of what piece of music we're playing, whether it's something he likes or something that I like, or a piece that we both like, we tend to hear and ascribe the same values and weight what we hear in a very similar
We have
fashion.
very similar sensibilities on these
Yes,
things.
absolutely.
And a perfect example would be the two versions of kind of Blue we played. You bought the new UHQR from
Yep.
Chad from Acoustic Sounds, which I passed on for a good reason, I thought.
And Chad, if I sell any more records because of this, you can send me
Send the royalty, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And we played it against my early 2000s classic records reissue.
Which is a great reissue.
It really is. They're both very good.
Yes.
We tended to like the UHQR better, but we both, as soon as we played one first, we played the other one second, and when we were done, the second one we both heard the same thing: the depth of the upright bass, the texture of the saxophone, the drum kit. We both focused and heard the same things, and we liked the same about both records. And it's not at all uncommon for that to be the case with people who listen to music together. The example I used way back in my early days writing the magazine was, I mean, it was back in probably in the late 80s. Two listeners who are buddies go into the same store to hear a brand new pair of bookshelf speakers. When they come out, one guy says these are great, the other guy says these suck. Because the guy who says they're great listens to vocal music. The guy who said they suck listens to organ music. Well, a monitor isn't going to play deep bass from an organ, so he didn't like what he heard. The other guy, it focused on mid-range, and he preferred it. So keep those kinds of things forefront when you're making decisions about what you're listening to and why you're listening to it, even with other people.
Absolutely. And let me make one other point, too. Even though Greg and I tend to hear things along the same lines, and it's, if bass response is impactful, if it's solid, if it has slam and pitch precision, it's very possible for he and I to hear the same things and to ascribe or assign different values to what we hear.
Sure.
One listener can hear what I think is as very precise, impactful bass and say, "Oh, that sounds a bit too lean to me." We're hearing the same things, but we're assigning different aesthetic values to what we hear. That's often the case, and that is not a cause for concern. It means that we have different aesthetic priorities, and what we hear biases or colors.
There's different
how we
biases.
interpret. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
they're biases.
None is wrong. Neither is wrong. Neither is right.
They're just different.
They're just different.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Now, it's interesting to me that you just talked about bass texture and pitch and tonality, because when you came to hear this system, one of the things that you absolutely lit up over is how this system performs
Yeah.
below about 60 hertz.
I think it's the best bass performance I've ever heard in a high-end system. It's simply remarkable. Of course, the cabinets weigh about, 500 to
They're
600
500
pounds
pounds,
each.
yeah.
I mean, so you can bury both of us in one of the cabinets. I mean, they're that large. But with the ability to move all of that air in a sealed enclosure yields bass performance that you simply have to hear to appreciate. So if you ever get a chance to hear the Ultra 9s properly set up, I'd be amazed if you didn't fall head over heels with the bass performance. It's simply amongst the best out there.
Yeah, I mean,
Costs no object.
it's ridiculously fast. It's exceedingly pitch defined. And there are certain recordings. If you take, for instance, the Roger Waters' "Amused to Death," I think it's around track 7. There is a fighter jet that flies in, drops a bomb, and the bomb goes off. With the 9s and the 11s, those are the only two speakers I've heard do it the right way. That's not true. The Gamut Zodiacs did it too.
Yeah.
That bomb explodes behind my wall and rolls through the room. I mean, it ruffles your pant legs and rolls past you. And it's so fast. It's so well defined. It's so just, the speed is ridiculous. And it really, I've said this for dozens of years, that it's not that I want, am I a bass freak? Not really. The thing that's most important to me is that deep information, if that's not there, the acoustic space, the air around things, the shimmer of things, it's not the same. And it's I've one of my audio analysts' audio axioms is that everyone needs good subwoofers or a full range speaker for that reason. It's not just about headbanging and hearing deep bass. It's about the space that reveals when that information's there. You'll hear with like good classical recordings, you'll hear the air handling system in the hall. You'll hear the fans in the air conditioning system moving air,
You have
and
a
it's
better
fabulous.
sense of what that listening hall
Sounds like.
because of all those extraneous noises that aren't part of the music making process per se, but do constitute the ambient sound envelope within which the performance takes place, and all that added information equates to a more realistic, lifelike sound.
Absolutely. Now, part of the reason you came to visit was that I have the entire VAC stack here, the statement stack. I have the 2-box statement line stage, the 2-box statement phono stage, and a pair of the 452 IQ music block amplifiers.
What can you say? It's simply mind-blowing. Beautiful, incredible bloom and detail, deep bass that I didn't think a tube amplifier was capable of, noiseless presentation, akin to really good solid state. 20 years ago, I don't think you could have found a tube line stage, phono stage, power amp, monoblocks in this case, combination that portrayed and reproduced music with such authority, such detail, such quietude, and a sense of just walking through the park. I mean, I never get the sense, even on the loudest passages, that the amps are at all close to reaching their limits.
They're not overbiased at all.
Yes, absolutely.
And you know, the thing that I wanted to point out here is that one of the things I despised about tubes back in the day was it was a pair of situations. One, they were problematic as hell. To keep running properly. And two, they were typically euphonic as hell. There are a lot of people who love these single-ended triodes with single speaker drivers, and while I get what it is they're interested in, it's magical mid-range, but there's no bass and there's no treble, and that's just not for me. I'm not knocking it for you if that's what you like, but it's also, in my opinion, that first of all, the missing information above and below a certain frequency adds to the euphonic sound and takes away from the realism. But tubes before maybe 2003 or 4 primarily had more editorial color than they had accuracy.
Absolutely.
And what I heard, now I will tell you, I think it was 2004 that I had known Kevin Hayes and known of VAC since the 90s when he came out. But it was I think it was CES 2004 where he introduced the Phi Beta 110i integrated amp. And not only is it beautiful, I'll put a picture in here.
Sure.
It's freaking gorgeous. It was a tube amp. It was the first tube amp, I think, that I went, can I review that? It was staggeringly good. And so, in 2015, I had not 2015. It might have been. It was a while back. No, this must have been 17-ish, 2017-ish. Kevin came out with the 450i IQ integrated, that vertical tower. That's what allowed these amps to happen.
And I heard that amp here. It was
You did.
It was marvelous.
Yeah, it was all the statement pieces combined into one integrated, and it works exceedingly well.
What Greg has here now ups the ante by at least 20% over that remarkable product. And by the way, that product is something I think Greg could have lived with.
I could have lived with that. Yeah,
it's that good.
But these amps were the next step. So that integrated amp and the designs and the brilliance of the subtlety. I mean, it's so simple that it's absolutely brilliant. That I can't imagine someone didn't think of doing this before Kevin, but he nailed it. But it was that design that allowed him to come up with this design and led to these 452 IQs, which...
And as you'll see in pictures of the gear that Greg will post, they're physically arresting.
Oh,
they're simply beautiful statement products. And
you talk about pride of ownership. Jeez,
it's off the chain.
It's gorgeous stuff.
It's just silly.
So you think it's a pretty decent system overall right now, huh?
Yeah, it's not as good as my NAD 20 watt integrated with my EPO speakers, but it's close.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really taken with this stuff, and I'll be doing a full review on this VAC stack very soon.
So I look forward to it.
Yeah, I can't tell you.
I'm gonna
And
borrow those amps too, by the way.
well, talk to Kevin. They're 230 pounds. 230 pounds out of the freight or out of the airline or the case. So
United will let me bring them on his
oh,
carry-on.
sure. Yeah, they will. They'll fit in the overheads. Yeah. Yeah, seriously, the flight cases for those things,
Massive, massive.
they're about just shy of 300 pounds in the flight case.
Greg has a puppy, a 100-pound Great Dane named Stella, and she looks tiny next to the amplifier.
It's kind of funny, isn't
Yeah,
it?
It is.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks again. Maurice, as always,
Brother,
I can't thank
my
you
pleasure,
enough.
My pleasure.
Let's keep doing this every year, huh?
Invite me back, feed me.
Well, it's the booze you come for. It's not the food. Don't
And
lie.
Stella.
The single malt
We
scotch.
don't like you. We just
My
put up
Stella.
with you.
It's my
Absolutely.
Stella. Everybody, thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed the information covered in this discussion as much as we enjoyed sharing it. And Maurice, thank you so much for taking the time to travel up from Florida to hang out here at the Audio Analyst Central and share your time with me and my viewers. And thank you for taking the time to drop by today. Please click the subscribe and notify buttons if you haven't already. Be sure to share your comments or questions, and please don't forget to like and share links to your favorite episodes with your friends or on social media. Further information on supporting the channel may be found in today's description section or at my website, theaudioanalyst.com. Please stay safe and keep the music playing. Till next time, cheers.